It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Renee's here, Andy's here, Lori's here, and of course, just before the show, Apple sent out invitations to the event next week. What will Apple announce next week, and what other events might be coming up? We'll talk about that. We'll wish you a happy Star Trek Day and show you how you can get a little Spock logo in your tweet. Plus, the Japanese government looking at the App Store, adding yet another country investigating Apple. It's all coming up next on MacBreak Weekly. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you from Twit's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 730, recorded Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. The Battle of the Tims. This episode of MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by LastPass. Let LastPass improve your employees' experience while safeguarding your business from cyber threats. LastPass is the #1 password manager. Visit lastpass.com/twit to find out how they can help you. And by Tailor Store. Tailor Store makes high-quality clothing that's fully customizable by you. From the basic essentials to the most high-end details, Tailor Store has you covered. Get 20% off plus free shipping with every purchase through October 31st at tailorstore.com/twit. Use the offer code TWIT. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show we get together with my favorite people and talk about Apple. Our Apple gurus are in the house. No John Prosser today. Lori Gill is here, however. She was smart enough not to believe him. She was managing editor for iMore at Appaholic. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
Welcome. Also with us, Mr. Andy Iannacco from WGBH Boston. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Boy, am I steamed because I booked my airline tickets to be in my home office for a certain date, and now I had to eat that expense.
We thought there'd be a big announcement. I'll get to that in a second. We thought there'd be a big announcement today. Also with us, Renee Ritchie from imore.com. Hello. I'm sorry, from youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. And occasionally imore.com. You really know.
Also, it's always going to be in my heart, Leo.
Yeah. You still do stuff. So Prosser doubled down. Down, which was a mistake. He had tweeted last week. Remember, in your tracker, what was the name of that tracker site you were talking about?
AppleTrack.org.
AppleTrack.org. He's a 77% tipster, which is
87. I think he's.
Is he? Well, he's down now.
Yeah, no, I think he's.
Yeah.
You're right.
He's down a little bit now. 77.8% accurate. And he tweeted last week, for sure, there would be an Apple event today sometime, and this should have been a red flag, between 6 and 9 a.m.
Well, he said a press release announcing the Apple Watch and the iPad would be today around 9 a.m. Eastern.
Well, he slowly narrowed in on that. And he even said, my sources have... Here it is. Okay, guys, last tweet of the night. This was yesterday, 6:58 p.m. My sources are not budging or changing their mind. They're still telling me that Apple Watch and iPad are coming tomorrow via press release. See you all in the morning to find out. I guess
this is so weird to me because, like, who would know that Apple was going to announce an iPad Air and Apple Watch event today? But not that it was just the event and not the products, but the event was going to be about those products. Like, that's a very narrow, set theoretical union of knowledge and no knowledge.
Well, those people, whoever are in that intersection, are not going to be around much longer if that's the case. If it's that easy to narrow down.
We told half of you that it was going to be these products and half that it was going to be an event, but nobody knew both.
So this is the invitation. Did you guys get one? I guess you must have, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I didn't, of course, but I don't exist in the world of Apple. This says Apple event. It's actually kind of cool because it says Apple event. Join us from Apple Park, September 15th, 2020, next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. So we will be streaming that coverage live. Micah and I will do iOS today first, and then we'll stream that coverage live right after, and then we'll do MacBreak Weekly with your analysis right after that. But watch what happens when you tap this. Oh, I'm loading the Universal Scene Description package What happened? It was working earlier. Let me do it again. Tap. Uh-oh. It's broken.
Still using
now.
web objects.
Yeah. What the hell? So it's so
Gotta
funny
pick your
because I
cyber node.
literally used this on this device earlier today, but it's no longer working. But you get an augmented reality version. Oh, screw it.
You can go to
Let's
Greg
roll the
Joswiak's
tape.
brand new Twitter account and take a look at it, Leo,
Yes.
if you want to see the.
Is that a brand new account for him?
Well, the account is old, but it's the first time he's used it.
Is that
And
true?
quite a flex. Yeah, it's quite a flex, his first tweet.
Greg J-O-Z or J-O? Yeah, I think it's Greg J-O-Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is, of course, going to be at this event because he is the replacement for Phil Schiller, the new SVP for marketing. And here is his tweet demonstrating the beautiful graphics that I couldn't. So that's the augmented reality. Notice the shadows, too, even doing the little thing.
Yeah.
So it turns
They're doing
the illustration into the date 9/15. And he's
It
doing
also kind of looks like an apple for a half a second, too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Right
a
there.
apple. There's the apple. I think that's
Yeah.
supposed to be an apple right there. Now,
And
what does this
there's an
tell us?
infinity in there. Yeah.
What? How do we decipher this? This invitation?
Read these tea leaves.
Yeah.
I
So
love speculating on invitation things, but I think this one is not as telling as we'd like to pretend it to be. I think it's just Apple showing off augmented reality, and that there's not going to be a product per se that is reflective of that, other than the LiDAR camera in a new iPad or something like that.
Rumor is, of course, the next generation Apple Watch and a next generation iPad Air that looks a lot like an iPad Pro down to the Type-C connector on it. That all seems credible. That's rumor, though.
There's two big questions here, though, Leo, because we know that Apple Marketing Communications gives a gist. They give the spec to the graphics design team. The graphics design team does not know what's at the event.
Oh.
The communications team, of course, does, but they just give them what they want to see, and then the graphics design team makes it. So there's no direct Easter eggs. It's just whatever the Marcom's team tells them to make. But time flies. Some people immediately think, oh, that's a LiDAR sensor, but others think, no, that's an Apple Watch. And some think blue, oh, that means the new iPhone is blue, but it's too late to be that blue. I mean, it's just all the way
They
down.
must give them the verbiage, though, right? So the time flies has to be coming from the people who know.
That's Marcom's, yeah.
Yeah. I don't.
Well, because
we're gonna find
also
out.
they. Well, also we're being played to a certain extent, because I'm sure that when they first started sending out these invites and they noticed that, my God, these idiots are actually devoting all kinds of time and airtime to try to let's start to sort of hype that up by putting little details so that people will definitely talk about this a lot more. Because I'm not setting myself aside from this. When I saw that, especially when I saw the animation, I thought, oh, maybe it could be like air moving around, and that could either indicate the iPad Air or could indicate the new oxygen sensor, blood oxygen sensor on the Apple Watch. But we just got through talking about how it's if the moment that you start trying to bank your reputation on predicting things that might or might not happen. It's there's a rake right in the middle of an open field. You found the rake, you stepped on it. You had the option of not stepping on it, but you decided, you know what, I'm just going to stomp right on that thing.
Then you backed up and you stepped right back in the same place.
So this event we will cover. John Prosser's score is going to go down a little bit. I guess not really, because it was a press release, right? In a way, right?
It was. The whole thing is weird. The whole culture is
there was no
toxic
press
around
release.
leaks. It's
There was
not
none press release.
No press release, and it didn't say,
Sorry.
and nothing about this invitation says necessarily watch or iPad. So
No.
I think we're going to take a few points off his accuracy.
Although the big biz pubs got told it was no iPhones, same way they usually get
Well,
told.
that's
there's
what's
no hardware
interesting.
stuff
I'm
with
looking at the
BBC.
9 to 5 Mac story, which originally said Apple officially announces iPhone 12 event.
Yeah. No.
In fact, you still see that in the slug because it's hard. It's easy to change the title on the page, but the slug in the URL still says Apple Phone 12 event. So do we agree it will not be an iPhone event, that's going to be in October?
Pachowski is usually good at that stuff. He's usually one of the people who will say no hardware at this event, or Apple's not expecting this year, and he's got a pretty good track record. He's not on Apple track, of course, but he's got a pretty good track.
Isn't that funny? He's not on Apple track?
No, I think they're more the young hipster, trendy leakers.
Okay. Yeah, he's at BuzzFeed News. Does that mean that BuzzFeed is no longer hip?
Well, he was Recode though, and that's where it started. Like I think he was from the Walt Mossberg sort of generation, or like the Andy Ihnatko sort of generation of big papers that covered Apple, and that Apple wanted those specific readers to understand key things about the event. So the Wall Street Journal or Recode or somebody would say those things, or Bloomberg. Bloomberg got that too, because they want Bloomberg readers to know.
So Pachowski tweets, September 15th, don't hold your breath for the new iPhone. He also tweeted, that's what your intestines look like after 6 months of lockdown.
Accurate. I mean, too much information.
I would oppose that if not for the fact that just 20 minutes ago my lunch was a peanut butter sandwich and a Pop-Tart. Okay, fine.
Oh dear, oh dear.
I feel singled out
Pop-Tart
here.
in the sandwich.
Well, it's fruit technically.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So
instead of jelly, you use Pop-Tart. That's exciting.
yeah,
I would do that.
If you don't have any Pop-Tart, I mean, you don't have any jelly,
right now.
put the Pop-Tart on the peanut butter and you can leave
It
the bread
sounds
out too,
delicious.
for that matter. Save yourself some time.
It's a
I was
tart.
busy
It's a
today.
pop.
I'm sorry.
Crazy like that.
It actually sounds
Stranded with
it
no
actually sounds
berry.
delicious. I
Yeah.
think even
It's-
Julia Child would approve.
There you go. Well, again, it was plated like on the Food
there.
Network.
That's
where
all
you
that matters.
You slice into sections and sort of fan them out on the
Yeah,
plate
yeah.
and sort of do it. When you get
That's
to the
the important
Nutella, you just do the splot and then a little swoosh down.
Plating is everything. It's all.
But
It's
yeah,
all.
I would be. I myself would be surprised if there was an iPhone announcement next week, chiefly because I've been there's been really loud talk about how there were delays on the iPhone this year, and so I would expect an event in October rather than November, than September.
My accuracy rate, which by the way, according to AppleTrack.org, is 0%.
You've never been wrong.
I've never been
There
right
you
either. My here's an interesting one, and I again, this is a tweet and I haven't verified it. Somebody said if you look at the metadata for the YouTube feed, which is already set up at Apple's YouTube account, the metadata does say Air, iPad Air, Apple Watch, but it also says MacBook and iMac.
It says everything. Guillermo
the
Rambo
one-
went in and
Yeah.
pulled all the
Oh,
keywords, and
it
it's
says
every
everything.
single product that Apple makes.
Oh, okay, never mind.
But the one thing that was interesting, and the one reason that this was written about, is that it says Series 6. So all of the other things that are referenced are existing products,
Not
but
the
Series
Series
6 is not an
6.
existing product. That's why it's kind of a big deal that that's in there.
Well, that's why I have sources that I've sort of I may be breaking a confidence here, but they tell me that 6 comes after 5. I'm not hanging my
it
reputation
does
on it.
say here's the metadata. It does say Series 5 and then Series 6, but it also says iPad, iPad Air, MacBook, iMac, MacBook Pro, Fitness, Wellness, Illustration, Apple TV, Digital Art, AirPods, Apple Event, Apple Keynote, WWDC, which is clearly not, September, Apple Special Event. Yeah, you're right. It just pretty much says everything. I don't know if you can read anything into that.
Yeah. Or again,
kudos to those nerds.
I'm being totally serious here. This is like code breaking in 1944 at this point, where they also know that people are going to take a look at the metadata. They're going to take a look at the image size and the image EXIF information. And where websites are routinely breaking down the code of like pre-release software to look for any mentions of hover phone. Oh my God, I saw a string that says hover phone in the upcoming in the beta software. This is what I hope that Apple is big enough that they can sort of allow some of their engineers to say, you know what, it would be really, really funny if you basically got everybody chasing their own tails by sneaking a tiny, tiny little graphic of something with an Apple logo, but it's the size of, let's say, a 1-inch square piece of aluminum and with a port on the side of it that no one has ever seen before. Just put that somewhere in the binary and let's just see them chase their own tails.
They screwed with Gurman for a while when he was looking for the strings for new Apple devices like iPad 1,7 and things, and they started putting outlandish. I don't think they went as far as like 12, hamburger or anything like that, but they started putting outlandish numbers in there as sort of like a wink and a nudge that they knew that people were in there.
Tags?
That feels
Hopefully,
iPhone-y to me. I don't know why.
Yeah, especially like that would be a feature that they could, like a hardware product that they could announce as part of a feature to come with the new iPhone 12. That seems like they go hand in hand.
Yeah. It seems
But
like.
will it be a 2-hour event? Because the calendar invitation says 2 hours, and 2 hours seems long for Apple Watch, even Apple Watch 6, Apple Watch SE, and iPad. So either it's not 2 hours, and that's just the standard calendar invitation length they put out, or there's some peripherals. But those all feel like, if it's AirPod, if it's the over-the-ear AirPods, all that stuff feels like iPhone event stuff. Apple
Also,
Silicon Max.
Sorry.
Double Pinter asks, and I think it's a fair question, why wouldn't they announce the iPhone next week? That's the normal time.
It's not ready.
It's just not ready.
Yeah.
It's a COVID thing.
You don't want 4 weeks. Well, yeah, I mean, lockdown, all those things. Yeah, it's apparently, I think Apple announced it's a few weeks behind, which is like 2 to 4 weeks in Apple financial parlance, and that would move it from end of September to beginning of October. And if the event was at the end of September, I think that'd be fine. Like they could say they did have a 3-week gap 1 year between. They usually have 2 weeks. They could have a 3-week gap 1 year. But I think a 4-week, 5-week gap is too much for them. They'd much rather do it.
Although we do think there will be a long gap between the iPhone 12 Pro. That'll be even longer.
It keeps changing.
Right?
It was not the Pro this week. Digitime said it was the 6.1-inch iPhones would come first, and then the 5.4 and 6.7-inch. And
Pro first,
Lori and I think
then
have
the less
similar opinions
expensive.
of Digitimes, but it's just
right.
bonkers.
What do you think, Lori? So give us your timeline.
Well, yeah. So it would make sense for Apple to announce and launch their iPhone, the new iPhone lineup. There would be one model or one, size that would be available soon. And that's why they're postponing until October for an event at all. So I was thinking, and again, the Digitimes, if they're right on this, I'm wrong, but I was thinking that the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Max, trying to remember the names of these, would be announced first. So that would be the 4.5-inch iPhone and then the 6.1-inch iPhone, not the Pros. And that later in the year, as possibly as late as November, we would see the Pro models or the Pro Max models, maybe even in 3 stages. So
would
the
they
iPhone
have
12
3 events?
It wouldn't be events. So in this case, it would be they would have an event in October, knowing that the earliest they could get any phone out would be maybe a week or 2 after that event, but also knowing that there would be some phones that would come as late as October or late as November, which there's a precedent for that because that's what happened with the iPhone 10. They were announced in September and didn't come out until late October. So, but there were other iPhones available shortly after the event took place. So I think, one, postpone the event long enough that they can get one model of iPhone out fairly quickly, but also make it so that when the next iPhone that's available comes out, it's not 2 months later. It's more like a month later or 3 weeks later.
So a week from today, iPad Air, Watch, maybe tags? No, maybe not, because that might be for a later event. And then when in October? Early October? Probably, right? There'd be an iPhone event, maybe 1 month exactly, so October.
Yeah, first or second week in October. I wouldn't say as late as like
6th.
Actual mid-October.
Yeah.
I feel like 15th of October might be a little bit late. It might be sooner than that. That's my
So the
my
Tuesdays
guess on.
in October are the 6th, 13th, 20th, and 27th. So maybe the 6th or the 13th.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 6th even seems a little early,
That
but
seems
yeah,
early. Maybe the 13th.
maybe the 13th.
And that would be iPhones with some available
Right.
in a week or 2 and some available maybe in a few weeks, like they did with the iPhone 10 and others. When now we
But then
know
there's
that they're going to also announce Apple Silicon sometime this year. Would that be at one of these events?
So that would have been, if you think of a traditional year, a Mac event would normally take place in October. So this not being a typical year and knowing that we're getting Apple Silicon, that does change things because Apple Silicon could come as late as
December 31st.
December 31st, and that it
That's
would
what they
still
did with
count as this year.
The trash can Mac Pro. They announced it in the fall, but it wasn't available. It didn't come out. You couldn't get it until early January. You could order it, but you couldn't get it till January.
My guess is that we are not going to see an Apple Silicon Mac at the iPhone 12 event. I think that's still going to be postponed a little bit longer, and it may get its own special event in November.
That would be a third event. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree 100%
not
because
event.
this is It's not, well, because you think about what they have to achieve with each one of these quote, now we're using air quotes, events. In the case of Apple Silicon, they not only, with the iPhone 12, what they're trying to do is get people excited about replacing their phones with the new shiny. With the Apple Watch, they're going to have to talk about, here are some new health features that we have. Here's how they work. Here's how they've been certified. Here's how well they work. Apple Silicon is going to be a totally different sort of thing, where they have to walk people through exactly why you should not be wary of it, but you should be excited about it. They have to talk all about how they didn't just take iOS and they didn't just port Mac OS over to iPhone hardware and iPad hardware. They built a custom chip, and here are the things that we did to make it the best Mac OS CPU ever. So this is why I really think that that's going to be a standalone event. If there's anything else tacked onto it, it'll be something very, very simple. Like they might decide that if, again, Apple tags, if they haven't announced it, then it's a way to say, it's a way to announce them at a time when everyone's going to be taking a look at it. But this is going to be a big major event, because this really is like this is almost like a campaign that they have to launch here. They have to convince people that not only is there nothing to worry about, there's everything to be excited about with this new CPU.
It's absolutely the case that Apple tags are just a feature, really. And so they could be announced at any time, probably around the iPhone. And actually, the least important thing of all the things they'll be announcing this fall, it would be a new iPad Air, or even a new Series 6 Apple Watch. The iPhone and the Mac Apple Silicon, those are, I agree with you, Andy, those are tent posts. You're going to have as much of an event as you can for those two things.
The watch, though, has like a very iPod-like position now, or maybe not even, because it's not near saturation. The iPhone is in a hugely competitive, near saturated market where you really got to put on a show to get people to buy them. Where the Apple Watch, the market is nowhere nearly saturated. They're not really targeting upgraders at all still. They're mostly targeting people who've never bought one, and they have huge holiday sales spikes. So the more, like, just giving camera time to the Apple Watch really helps with the wearables segment. And if they have the new health features, like if they have the blood oxygen sensor, that's something where you want like the vice president of health, Sumbul Desai, up there to talk about blood oxygen levels and sleep tracking and exercise tracking, maybe for COVID. And that all is... So
watch is important too. All right.
Yeah, it behooves having that sort of airtime. I don't know what to call it. It's not stage time anymore. I can't take 2020.
Apple's Apple's really, I mean, of all the tech companies out there, they have a lot to show this fall. A lot of new stuff. And there is good reason to have an event for a lot of it.
Yeah, and Android 11 just dropped today. So I think that all these companies, they try not to get too bunched up, because there's only so much attention that can be devoted to anything one thing.
Right.
And Samsung had two events, right? Like they had the Galaxy Note event, then they had part 2 for the full.
Right, one after the other, one month apart. So, and that was just for two different phones. I mean, Apple's got 4 or maybe even 5 models.
And there's no logistics, like no one's traveling. It's much easier, like to just whip. Like, I'm not saying it's not easier, but I mean it's more logistically feasible to do micro events than it would be to do real world events.
Right. Well, it's going to be a busy couple of months for us.
Yay!
I guess. Right. What else do you say?
What else do we have to do?
Yeah. Exactly.
except for not get the Rona.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Anything else to say about these events? The only thing we know for sure, I always want to, because there's so much rumor smog, that the one thing we can see clearly is that in a week from today, there'll be an event.
Yes.
That's all we really know. And we'll see what they announce.
And it's from Apple Park.
Is there no disincentive to spread these out? Isn't there some incentive? You get diminishing returns, right, with getting people's attention, or do you?
I mean,
Wouldn't you prefer to have one big event than 3 small events?
There's no Wonder Woman. There's no Black Widow. Give me as many of these.
People are desperate for entertainment. Now of all times would be the time to have 3 events. Maybe. Speaking
of entertainment, did you hear? There's a post on. First saw it on Reddit, then I saw it on Mac Rumors that someone claims to have seen an Apple Watch prototype in a security case that looks like an iPod Nano.
Yeah.
And that looks
like that would fool anybody.
Well, but at least lets you use it like sort of in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it reminds me that if someone wants to make that kind of a case, I'd be so into it. So something with a lanyard on it so that I couldn't necessarily like drop or lose it.
How do you solve
inverse?
How do you solve the authentication? How do you solve the authentication issue? Because in theory, when you unlock it and it's on your wrist, it's unlocked until it goes off your wrist. I presume that's some sort of.
You just have to disable that.
That's some sort of capacitive thing, right? Well, disable it. Can you disable it?
You can turn off.
Yeah,
you can turn off passcode.
You
unlock.
Can. Oh,
yeah.
No, but you can't use Apple Pay or anything like that if it's not.
Right. That's correct.
It's not passcode. I unlocked it because I looked at my phone and the face unlocked it. But if I take it off my wrist, it's going to be locked with or without a passcode. I could use a passcode to unlock it, but it's somehow saying that is now securely attached to my identity.
Like Flavor Flav, if you wear it on your chest, it'll pick up your heartbeat and that'll keep it unlocked.
Does it have to touch skin?
I'm so shocked that you went with a Flavor Flav reference and not a Tony Stark reference. Like you have it like right on your chest. Like, you'll get the EKG, you'll get the things like that. But in this kind of use case, though, I'm talking about obviously, and you're also not using the heart rate monitor. But if this were a standalone device, I would say no. What's the point? But if it were like a $40, $30 really well-made case, I could see so many incidents in which I would be I actually want to wear like a fancier, a dressier style watch, but I still want to I still want to get like notified about things without having to pick up my phone. I still maybe want to still have a gigabyte of music to play. I'm saying as a $30 thing that even if it were something that I would use the hell out of for 2 weeks and then forget about, I would be so excited to get a case like that.
There's a guy named Apple Demo on Twitter who created a kind of a 3D printed prototype. Was something like that?
Yeah.
Not really. So what do? You put a little sponge in the back and get it wet with your sweat? I mean, how do you make it work?
Well, so I have a friend who purposefully she disables the passcode to unlock the Apple Watch. She just wears it around her wrist. She just doesn't like the feeling of having a wrist so tight, a watch so tightly wrapped on her wrist. That's just her fashion sense.
Well, how does she unlock it?
And she just doesn't use Apple Pay. She doesn't use the things that require it to be, stuck to your wrist for. She still loves her Apple Watch. She just that's how she chooses to do it. So I feel like
I don't get it.
For some people it'll work. They just don't use the other features that you would need for that kind of thing.
So mine's locked because I took it off my wrist. Now I have a passcode, but if I don't enter the passcode, it just shows nothing. It just shows the time, and it doesn't show my calendar because I can't see that. You couldn't see notifications. It's a watch.
Yeah.
Okay. That seems like a lot to pay for something that's non-functioning. Is there any way to disable that? I don't think there is. I think Apple's intentionally built that in.
Yeah, it's probably some sort of deal with the credit card companies where if they're going to allow you to use that sort of authentication, they're going to want it locked down.
Well, and it's not just that. I mean, literally, most of my apps don't work. Notifications don't work. It has to be, you have to log in with your phone or passcode before
There's
anything.
Andy's Tony Stark solution, Leo. I mean, we can only help you so far with it.
Okay.
Fine. All of you just go ahead and be a screen door on my submarine. Hide my light under a bushel. That's fine.
Doesn't have to be that tight, by the way. I mean, it's pretty loose on my wrist and it still works. It's just, it's just, it can't be.
Maybe you have a second Apple Watch for this that you don't need. Your primary Apple Watch has all that on, and then when you hold it in your hand, your secondary.
And truthfully, Apple could announce something. They could they could say the passcode only Apple Watch that has to be unlocked with a passcode, and then you could keep it in a. Because the thing is, if you unlock it with a passcode, but it's not on your wrist, doesn't it relock?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So that's what they do. They turn that off. They say this special one for your iPod Nano case.
It gets 3 hours of battery life. People are so salty.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think of it, it is an interesting demonstration of how the convergence of the iPod and the Apple Watch, where the reason why they feel as though there's no need to really do anything interesting with the iPod anymore is that anybody who they would push into an iPod, meaning I want something that's not really a phone. I just need to have digital things on it. I need something to wear while I'm working out that's not as big and bulky as having a phone strapped to my arm, is in fact the Apple Watch.
Yeah. This is the iPad Nano. This is the 4 gigabyte iPod Nano. That's what it is. It's the watch is now your Nano.
I was just sort of Marie Kondoing a whole bunch of my hardware.
Yeah.
And I have a drawer. I have a drawer in my library, my vintage Boston Public Library Oak Library card file that is like just nothing but like old music players. And so it gave me a chance to actually look at pretty much every iPod that's ever been taken out, including the iPod Nano. And it really reminded me of what an interesting and cool form factor that was. That little postage stamp thing with a color screen that you can clip onto anything. It just got me sort of wondering is there a place for a device like that, even if you have to sort of reconsider what its portfolio of features, what its role is going to be, because there's something to the idea of you start off with a form factor that is just appealing to begin with. And I think good design is always you start off with a function or you develop form and function together, but there's something about, gosh, I really wish there was something more I could do with this other than admire it every 2 months or so when I'm sorting through that drawer.
I thought I knew how Twitter worked. What is a hash flag?
It's a custom hashtag.
It's a special.
It's a word I hadn't heard of before today, too.
Yeah. Here's the hash flag for the Apple event. It's a light blue apple. But apparently this is a hash flag browser from wongmjane.com that shows there's a bunch of hash flags for a variety of things. I didn't even know this. This is something Twitter does, obviously.
Yeah, when you use a special hashtag, like when I made a joke about the Hamilton movie, it automatically like put up a Hamilton movie, like the Hamilton logo in the middle of it.
Oh, that's so cool. But you have to use the right hashtag, and it sees that, right?
Yes.
Right.
That's so cool.
I mean, I've known that they do that because that's actually pretty. I've seen it happen quite a few times, but I didn't know it had a word. I didn't know flash tag was the word.
Well, yeah.
Or hash flag.
They've done it a couple times now.
Yeah.
Twitter's got to make money somehow.
If you were a sociologist, browsing the latest hash flags would tell you something about what's going on in the world, right?
Outside the Netherlands, even.
Star Trek Day 2020. When is that?
Today.
What? Happy Star Trek Day.
Yeah.
So if I put hashtag Star Trek Day, I'll get one of those little hash logos?
Yes.
You'll be hash flagged.
Or you could do Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and you'd get that guy for Star Trek Day. So
and isn't it's 7 of 9 days? Isn't that how it works?
Well, no. It's the 8th, isn't it?
Yeah.
James T. Is it Kirk's birthday?
Yesterday was 7 of 9 today, and today is Star Trek Day. It's so confusing.
Hashtag Star Trek, the original series, gives you a little Spock. Or Star Trek TOS gives you a little Spock. Now, see, now I'm going to have to start tweeting stuff like that.
Yeah, this is the day. Okay, that's the day the original series first premiered on September 8th.
Oh.
Wow. Hash.
But
it's too bad they can't, May the 4th be with you this and just have, live long and 8th of September or something.
I just thought that the moment that May the 4th became a thing, you got to know that Babylon 5, Star Trek, every single fan was like, oh, I so wish there was something so perfect and natural like that for us to. And it's at the start of summer too. It's the perfect day for everybody to get together. It's the day for a premiere. I think it's kind of.
Well, it's just, Trekkies are just more data driven. They're all about the facts. They're not whimsical. They've got, they got the important stuff down. They don't need a special
Nothing unreal
phrasing.
exists, Lori. Nothing unreal exists.
Oh, I know why I've never seen these. It doesn't work on the official Twitter app for the Mac or on TweetDeck.
No.
You got to be using the web, in other
The
words.
two ones that you use.
Most of Twitter, it's sporadically implemented.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
Laura,
I didn't even know about this.
I think the Star Trek fans would say, well, we keep Star Trek in our hearts every single day of the year, unlike Star Wars.
They don't need a special. Trekkies don't need a special day for that.
No,
every day is Star Trek Day.
It's a star date. It's not a star. It's not a day. It's a star date.
Exactly.
All right, let's take a little break. We've dealt with the rumors. There are any other rumors that we haven't dealt with? I think that's everything.
Did you mention the iWatch or the Apple Watch SE?
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Really? A less expensive Apple Watch.
Yeah. Basically a replacement for
That's
Apple
what the
Watch
Series 4
3.
is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the Series 4 was dropped. There is
the Series 3.
4.
Series 3.
Yeah.
They dropped the 4.
It is what the Series 3 is.
The current one is Series 5. So the Series 3 is like 200 some bucks.
$199.
Great.
Yeah. So if they gave it, a faster processor chip, and then we're just
update it.
here's a better version.
And instead of calling it the Series
Better
3,
health stuff.
call it
Better
the
health stuff
SE
would be
Special
awesome.
Edition. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just,
So
you know,
it makes sense.
I think they should do this because, unfortunately, you know, when the original Apple Watch came out, it kind of was the feeling, well, they're not going to update it every year. So you could spend a little money on your $27,000 gold watch. But now that it really seems like they are going to update it every year, I'm much less likely to buy an edition version, the titanium or the ceramic.
Yeah, same.
Because I'm going to have to upgrade it in a year. So get the $200
But we're
model.
not the normal people, Laura. Like, sorry, like most people still don't have, like their whole thing is most people still don't have an Apple Watch. And like the best way I can explain it, because there are already people being angry about having bought an iPad, that someone else might get a new iPad, or that they're going to update Macs more frequently if they're on Apple Silicon because it'll make theirs obsolete. And the best way I can explain it to everybody is just, it's like a bakery. They need to make fresh bread every day. Even if you don't buy fresh bread every day, if you go there and your bread is stale, you'll be upset. So they need to keep making these products every year, because you can buy an Apple Watch every 3 years, or a Mac every 5 years, or an iPhone every 2 years or 3 years. But when you buy it, it should be as up to date as possible, because then you get the most lifespan out of it. So don't think about like other people getting newer stuff than you. Think about you getting the newest thing whenever you're ready to buy. That's my rant for today.
I just read a long article on the difference between bread gone bad and stale bread. They're two different things.
Yes.
And
Lucky for Italian cuisine.
yes, you don't want mold on your bread. So take it out of if you open a loaf of bread, take it out of the bag.
Yeah.
But it's okay to put it in the fridge. It'll get hard, which is not bad because you can soften it again if you heat it to 140 degrees. Anyway, I can't. It was a long piece on this.
You see, that's where you're kind of screwing yourself over by buying those fresh breads at a real bakery. When you buy the processed stuff from a commercial factory, you just leave it out. It's pretty good for a month or two.
Let's take a break. Great to have you all. Good to see you. I guess we'll be back next week a little bit later, but we will be talking about something.
Yes.
Something new. Our show today brought to you by LastPass. LastPass recently surveyed 700 IT and security professionals across a wide range of industries, financial services, IT, retail. Most of them, 82%, said their business has been exposed to risk due to poor identity and access management. IAM. That's what LastPass does. LastPass helps you manage identities and promote good security behaviors. And it's especially important right now while your employees are remote, no longer soaking in the warm, secure bath at work. They're at home in the cold, cruel world. Who knows what's going on? But so the first thing to make sure is you provide your employees with secure password storage. LastPass gives every employee his or her own vault for storing every app and web login they use. They make it very easy to share those logins, too. You don't want employees emailing, texting, logins when they have to share them. You want them using the secure sharing built into LastPass. LastPass is also all about convenience. In fact, we know employees aren't going to use this unless it's easy to use, and LastPass actually makes their job easier. That autofill, fantastic. They have single sign-on, more than 1,300 single sign-on apps, which means it's easy. They just, on their phone, they say, yep, that's me, and that's it, no password at all. That helps you manage employee access in a centralized view. And this is important, too, for you, not your employees, but for you. IT always has insight into who is accessing what and from where. Enterprise password management ensures oversight of shadow IT. But there's also enforceable policies. We use many of them because, of course, we use LastPass Enterprise. We require two-factor, for instance. Minimum password requirements. There's more than 100 policies you can enforce across all your password-protected accounts. They have multi-factor authentication, which is great. It takes biometric or authenticator-based two-factor to the next level. So you've got Face ID, you've got Touch ID, but you also have things like geolocation and IP address, so that you're always sure the right person's using what they have permission to use and no one else. Employees always have their passwords with them, too. That's one of the things I love about LastPass. iOS, macOS, Android, Linux, Windows, every browser, LastPass is there to help you fill in your passwords, to help you keep track of them, but really importantly, to help you generate long, strong, unique passwords every time you need to create new ones. And even if your employees are working remotely, even if their internet is sketchy, LastPass works, even in offline mode. Working remotely should add convenience, not frustration. AES 256-bit encryption. They use all the state-of-the-art security tools. PBKDF2, Steve Gibson, by the way, verified all of this. That's why he uses LastPass. SSA 256 hashes, salted hashes on all the passwords. Your data is encrypted and decrypted only on device, never anywhere else. And your password is never transmitted anywhere, not even LastPass. So it really is truly trust no one encryption. Your data is always safe. LastPass, the #1 password manager. The only one I use. I've used it for years. We've used it at Twit for years. Let LastPass securely manage your user's identity by letting your employees work efficiently without making your business vulnerable to cyber threats. Go to lastpass.com/twit. lastpass.com/twit. And thank you, LastPass, for sponsoring the Twit studios. Actually, I really owe them because I'm the only one in the Twit studios these days. So thank you, LastPass, for keeping me safe here. I guess everywhere where we broadcast is a LastPass studio. I have a sign in my office at home in case I have to stream from home. Always ready. Always ready. I wish I could go to Singapore next week. Well, for a lot of reasons. Great food. But Thursday, actually it's this week, the Marina Bay Sands store opens. Look at that. In the water, a floating globe. Just a little causeway attached to it. So you walk across the bridge and there you are out in the harbor. It's apparently has an incredible view, 360-degree view of the city. Here's some pictures from Apple. Oh, man, does that look pretty. Apple, it's funny. I mean, they don't mind spending a lot of money on stuff like this. I mean, this isn't going to pay back the investment. It's just a great ad for Apple and the brand, right?
But it pushes the architecture forward.
It sure does.
Yeah, that's the contribution. It's like, again, like you can not like Apple or not like retail or not like any of these things, but just their contributions to architecture, or like retail architecture over the last decade have been stupefying.
Why do that?
Yeah,
is that for reputation?
Well, because I think that they've discovered, particularly with the New York City store, that it really does pay off when you create something that becomes a landmark.
It's
by
a destination.
definition.
Yeah,
exactly. The number of people that are at the New York City Apple store just to be at the New York City Apple store, and if at the time they remember that, oh, that's right, I keep meaning to pick up an iPad cover, or if better yet, if it means that your company has an identity that is tied to a city's community, that pays off really, really well. They could certainly do it a lot less with less creativity and less expense. So kudos to them for not simply having, hey, we've got now Singapore, you get your own cube, and Boston, you get your own cube.
Chicago is gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's nice, and each is unique. Even within New York, you've got the Fifth Avenue store, but you also have the Grand Central Terminal store. You have the Soho store. Yeah. So
the Shanghai one is breathtaking too.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I'm thrilled. They got enough money.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you have to wonder, what's the business model for this? Because it's got to be expensive.
Yeah. Well, let's also say that just to quickly say that they also do a good job of simply saying, here is a beautiful but really neglected and unloved piece of gorgeous architecture in the city. We can renovate it, not by necessarily stripping it out, but trying to keep as much character as possible. I mean, the Covent Garden, not Covent Garden, the first Apple store in London, for instance, had that sort of thing about it. Where
same thing in Paris in the Opera, yeah,
exactly,
and Grand Central. Go ahead, Lori.
What better way to give your brand that kind of status too than to make these kinds of design buildings and really show off we are a design tech company, and here's this globe in the middle of the ocean to prove just how like our status as designers. I think that's to me, when I look at that, I think this is Apple spreading their peacock feathers to let everybody know that, we're all about design. And, especially at a time when phones are looking more and more alike, they really want to make sure everybody remembers you love us because of our design aesthetic. Don't forget that, It's
also what happens when you reach a certain level as a company. The only way to go forward is to become iconic. right?
And Johnny wanted to, like, he had an itch to design bigger places like Apple Park and work with retail, and that.
Right.
I mean, you just let people run it.
And sure, it's not true now because of COVID, but at one time, Apple made more money per square foot than anybody but Tiffany. I mean, it was
they beat Tiffany, I think.
Did they beat Tiffany? So it's very.
Yeah,
it's
I believe
not like they don't make money on these. But I just wonder. I mean, it must. Look at this. So you see up above you a hole. These are adjustable louvers. They're like blinds because it can be very hot and sunny in Singapore, as you might imagine. And then look, see these escalators? Because there's also in the water underneath, there's then a bigger showroom as well.
The part that's interesting to me is that, like, because Tim Cook often gets just like written off as a logistics person, but I've heard him talk about the Apple retail stores, and he goes on and on about the builds of the staircases and where they source the material. And I guess that is logistics, but he had a deep passion, and that was often a Steve Jobs thing or Johnny Ives thing, but he had a deep passion for the materials and the build and the architecture and the design and everything as well. And it's really cool when you see that go just company wide. Really
beautiful. Oh, man, it makes me want to go to Singapore. I was supposed to be there in January. I would have been. I was supposed to be in Hong Kong and Singapore in January. Well, I'll put it off for a couple of years, but I'll do it. Apple is not, I have to say, a $2 trillion company anymore. Because,
what happened?
Well, the stock market.
Fickle markets are fickle.
I know, but it was pretty big for one day, wasn't it?
Apple had the worst day, I think, ever of any technology stock. They lost 8%, but it was also just bad for all stocks.
It's because they could afford to, Leo.
Yeah.
It was so big they could afford to have.
They lost 180 billion. Well, lost. That's not right. Their market value, their market cap, lost $180 billion in one day. It's the largest.
Their vanity metric.
It's a vanity metric, but it is the largest one-day loss in value for any company ever, according to Barron's. The previous loss, Volkswagen, in 2008.
So this came shortly after the stock split. Is there?
No,
I mean,
it's not Apple only because the whole market.
I still question the
whole market.
So a bunch of companies lost, their 8% too.
Yeah, it was the worst day of tech stocks since March. And I can almost. Well, I'm not a market prognosticator, and I'm not an investor, by the way. But I mean, I have funds. I don't invest in individual stocks. For good reason, because my track record would be awful. But I generally think that this is, if any sector is going to come back, during COVID, it's going to be technology sector.
The long arc of history.
No. As a matter of fact, I can't remember where I read this, but there is at least one country that is putting forward that the tech companies should be taxed more heavily during this period because they're actually they're the one industry that's doing exceptionally well, and that an increase in taxation on those companies could help to keep other industries afloat. Again, I'm sorry I don't have that reference handy, but this is not the sort of thing that's going to improve the perception that tech companies have way too much power and they're only going to become more and more powerful no matter what happens in the world. So it's going to be interesting to see in 2021 whether this shakes out as something specific that people would like to address, or whether just simply continues to downgrade people's opinion of huge people of $2 trillion companies that have access to all the information that we transact with willingly and unwillfully as we go throughout every day of our lives.
The internet is a paid monetization engine. So, I mean, the worse that we suffer, the better, like Twitter and all these places are going to do. So, if you were looking, DeWitt was covering this, wasn't he? And he was explaining there was a bunch of shorts and puts and profit taking going on. It's just like I think that's the Wall Street machine.
I think the words profit taking are actually probably the most accurate, because tech stocks had been ramping up hugely, as had the market as a whole, really heating up over the last few weeks. When that happens, people at some point go, I'm going to take some of that money out. And so the stock goes down again. And
also the shorts get mad. So they start doing things to get the stock back down again so they can buy it lower and sell it higher when it goes back up.
I'm going to presume it doesn't have anything to do with the Epic lawsuit. Or
no.
Apple is now countersuing. Today they filed counterclaims in their battle with Epic, seeking damages from Epic for its breach of contract.
Well, because Epic sued them, like Epic filed another motion for damages earlier in the week, Leo. You can't just have Tim Apple and Tim Epic are going at it, and it's a fair fight.
Yeah, it's the battle of the Tims.
It's so funny.
This is going to become a supercell, where just like with Samsung, the suits and countersuits and countersuits and countersuits become so huge that at some point there's going to have to be a meeting of the 5 families to decide how do we end this, because we're spending way too much time on this. And by the way, I did find a citation on that. There is the EU's European Commissioner for Economics and Taxation at the European House Ambrosetti Forum said that it's a major problem and big tech has to pay a fair amount of taxes in Europe, especially as they are the real winners of the corona crisis.
The winners. Carolina Milanese had a great point, though, where she also said that Apple writes these things for people. They don't write them for the courts. And when you go through and look at the language, it's like in the middle of the night, in the darkness of the night, Epic sent Apple a letter. And it's really written for humans, not for the courts. It's so many wars on so many levels. It's like 4D chess, Leo.
Yeah. And of course, as you pointed out last week, PUBG is suddenly, you go to the Apple store, it's the number one. Like, everybody wants the new PUBG. But
then banned in India.
Yeah. Yeah.
Immediately afterwards, because Tencent owns the mobile version, but also Tencent owns 40% of Epic. So are they next? It's so confusing to be a customer these days.
Well, it's complicated because now India is having its own little war with China,
right?
And so they're punishing the country as much as they can, and they're using people's dependence on phones as leverage in that war. And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
118 apps last week were killed in India, all Chinese. Speaking of which, Apple says it stores Hong Kong users' iCloud data in the U.S. and that if Hong Kong or the Chinese government wants to see that data, they refer them to the U.S. Department of Justice. This is in response to the July 1st security law that was imposed on Hong Kong by Beijing. No more requests for user data from Hong Kong authorities. We'll just refer it to the U.S. government.
Let's see how long that sticks, huh?
Yeah.
As soon as China...
A warrant would have to be issued by a U.S. judge before Apple would hand it over. That's one way to handle that. Just say, well, we store it here and good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. That is one instance in which Apple, the smart thing to do and the only thing they can do is simply hide behind procedure and simply say this is how we run things for everybody else. This is where the jurisdiction lies, and therefore, unless the situation radically changes, this is all that we can do. But as soon as that they're going to have to fold, just as soon as China says that given the amount of control that they're putting over Hong Kong residents right now, the idea of them putting harder restrictions over tech companies that do business with Hong Kong residents is going to be upgraded or downgraded, however you put it, to match it up.
Well, actually, Apple's a little slow to this. Right after July 1st, Microsoft, Twitter, and Google all said that they would stop processing requests for user data from Hong Kong. Apple took its time. They were assessing. Now they have said that that's going to be the case. They also said, and we should point this out, you may see some of these requests in the transparency report that's coming out soon, that Apple says it received a limited number of non-content requests from Hong Kong related to fraud or stolen devices, and presumably they cooperate in that case. I don't know. 604 requests for device information, 310 requests for financial data, 10 requests for user account data. That was last year in 2019. So it's not a lot, but still, this is a geopolitical environment is shifting.
All this
rapidly.
stuff, I think we talked about it last week, but all the different countries trying to put different rules in place for like how much you can charge for an app store and how you have to have localized data or data repatriation. And all these companies have become so international over the last decade. And now there's so many nationalist movements and antitrust movements. It's going to be really interesting in a non-terrible way to be a multinational company, I think, over the next decade.
Yeah, in fact, Japan is now probing the App Store rules.
Yeah.
Japanese game creators also stepping up and saying, "Yeah, we got some." Hironao Kunimitsu, who's the founder and chairman of Gumi, a mobile game maker, wrote on his Facebook page, "I want, from the bottom of my heart, Epic to win." Okay. 702,000 registered developers in Japan. So it's a big developer community. The App Store ecosystem, according to Apple, generated $37 billion in billings and sales in 2019. So it's a big moneymaker. Japan concerned about, same as everybody is, about how Apple runs a store. The Japanese
and also, when time gets tough,
go ahead.
Like, you want more of the pie. Like, when the pie is growing, like when the App Store started, it was growing so fast. We had story of App Store millionaire after App Store millionaire, and everyone's like 30% wine, whatever. I'm making so much money, it doesn't matter. And when times are tough, though, everybody is like, wait a minute, how much of the pie do you have?
Yeah.
And all these sort of squabbles come to the surface.
Japanese antitrust regulator says it's going to step up attention to the iPhone makers' practices in the wake of the epic Apple battle. I'm not sure exactly what that means. We're going to be looking at this, I guess. Let's see. Facebook was upset over Apple, and we talked about this when it first was announced. I think back at WWDC, Apple was going to put a pop-up on iOS 14 when a company requested your Apple identity for advertisers. And Facebook said this is going to be a massive problem. It's because, you've always been able to turn it off, but putting it in people's faces like that means that most people will say, no, I don't want to share that information. And Facebook said this is going to kill the online advertising market. So Apple apparently...
So they didn't say
complying.
that. They put up a notice telling developers that it was going to make it complicated, and a bunch of headlines came up saying Facebook flipped. It was vastly sensationalized in the media compared to the Facebook blog post, which was very matter of fact, because Facebook has Facebook, and then they have the partner network, and this was all partner network related.
So according to Alex Heath writing for The Information, Apple plans to delay the enforcement of this change until next year, giving people a chance to kind of respond and talk about it. Until 2021, developers will still be able to ask users for permission to share their IDFA when iOS 14 is released this fall, although you won't have to. So you could pop it up, but you don't have to pop it up. Yeah. Apple said, we want to give developers the time they need to make the necessary changes, and as a result, the requirement to use this tracking permission will go into effect early next year. That has to be a response to Facebook, though, right? Here's the pop-up.
No, it's every year. They do that every year. They did that with login. Every year they announce a new security feature. Everyone gets the developers get super stressed. They try to implement it. They find a bunch of edge cases. It was with sign in with Apple was the same thing last year, where they're like, oh, maybe Gmail doesn't have to include a sign in with Apple login because it's only logging in Gmail. We should have thought of that. And then it gets pushed out, and I think it ended up going live in January or February of this year instead.
This is just normal. Yeah. Here's the pop-up. And I think it's great. Palabout would like permission to track you across apps and websites owned by other companies. Your data will be used to deliver personalized ads to you, and then the user gets to say, allow tracking or ask app not to track. And, of course, if I saw that, I would say ask app not to track, right? Wouldn't you? Everybody would.
Yeah, I do think that these companies have I think it's correct for them to say at least consult us on the wording of this alert, because it's if the wording is too alarmist, saying that they should be able to say that, look, within context, that any website that you visit you're being tracked. Anytime you walk through a park carrying a phone in your pocket that's not in airplane mode, you're being tracked. That's an awful lot to put in one dialog box, but it should reflect the fact that as part of the reality of living in the 2020s, yes, we will be tracking. We want your location so that we can help monetize the app and also deliver features. The idea of warning, it's sort of like it shouldn't be like the warning that you get from Google when under certain circumstances, when you say we think that there's a site certificate invalidation here, someone might be trying to steal your personal information. That's the sort of thing where everyone's going to absolutely nope right out of there. So if the big purpose of the delay is to simply say we're definitely going forward with this feature, but let's talk about the language to make sure it informs people without necessarily scaring people off.
I have to point out, though, if you go into your settings now on iOS and you go to the privacy settings on iOS, I think, well, now I'm going to ask you guys, you're the experts, but if I go to settings, privacy, and then I scroll all the way down to Apple advertising, I can turn off personalized ads. Is that the same thing as turning off Apple's ID for advertisers?
I don't think so.
This is just like for general, the one that you were just looking at. I think that's just for Safari. I don't think it has anything to do with your Apple ID. I think it's just
for apps.
Oh, for apps. Okay. Let's see here.
And then you can see view ad targeting information. You have turned personalized ads off, which prevents Apple from using account information or your interactions with Apple services.
That's just Apple, I think.
Oh, so it's just for Apple.
I don't think that applies to third parties, yeah.
So this is in the App Store. But I was told that you could turn off ID. Here's tracking. Allow apps to request to track. Allow apps to ask permission to track you across apps and websites. So look in your phones and see if this is turned on.
Yeah, that just turns it off by block. Like if you turn off location, apps can't ask you for location. If you leave it on, they can ask you on an app by app basis. And I think that's the same thing.
So this doesn't turn off IDFA.
Leo, are you on iOS 14? Because I believe that's only on iOS 14.
Oh, I am.
So
on
that
14.
is the feature that's at issue here.
Allow
that's
apps to request to track,
14.
turn it on, and then they will ask permission, but not yet, not till next year.
Yeah, they'll be like, we don't have to yet.
So there, and in iOS 13, I thought there was a way to do that in iOS 13, but is there not?
I believe what you were just saying, which is under your privacy and advertising, you can limit ad tracking, which allows you to opt out of receiving ads targeted to your interests.
But that's not turning off IDFA, probably.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is why we need a lot of the work that needs to be done on this is on simple clarity. That, okay, you're turning off location, but are you turning off other information that these companies are going to be able to use to identify you? I think that when Google got caught doing this a couple of years ago, even their internal documents said that their own engineers, and they're looking at it saying, I didn't understand this myself, and I'm working on this product. Other people were saying it almost looks like it was intentionally trying to confuse people, and even today, you have to have a long talk with somebody about saying, how can you make sure that my phone cannot be tracked, my activity can't be tracked? And the answer is to keep it off and keep it turned off, really.
Apple did just release an ad about privacy saying some things should not be shared.
Yeah, it's a good ad.
Can I not play it? Because I bet I can't play it because I'm playing an Apple ad, and Apple will take down our show for paying their ad without taking any money from them.
What I've heard about that recently is that if it goes for over 20 seconds, there's an automated content ID system that kicks in, and that just flags any registered Apple content that's longer than 20 seconds.
Okay, there should really be a way for Apple to say, if it's an ad, let them play it. It's free.
They don't have to put it into Content ID, but I don't know if they're that granular or they just outsourced it to some company.
Maybe Content ID needs to be a little bit more granular. Well, I can't play it, but here's the good news. You can if you go to the Apple YouTube site. But that's the point, is that it says Apple says some things shouldn't be shared. That's why iPhone is designed to help give you control over your information and protect your privacy unless Facebook complains. Oh, wait a minute, it doesn't say that part. Apple's, you can't have it both ways, Apple. If you're going to advertise that you give people control, you got to give people control. And if advertisers complain and you say, oh, never mind, well, then you shouldn't be running that ad. Am I wrong?
I think it's less of the complaining and more like the implementation. Like there was a problem in implementing it, because what they test internally and what 1 million developers suddenly discover are different things, and it's just edge cases and bugs that they have to fix. But it's not sorry, we're not going to do it. It's like, no. I think there's zero sympathy for Facebook inside Apple. I think there's just, we didn't consider this, or this, and we're fixing it, so we'll give you until January to implement it.
Well, one of the things they may not have considered is that it's worth more than $70 billion a year, and a lot of that revenue goes to Apple. So,
I don't know if it does it?
Well,
I don't think they get
anything on ads. That's an interesting
ads.
question. I mean, they don't get a cut of it, I don't know. That's an interesting question. Yeah, since they don't have Apple ads, they wanted to, but their Apple ads was a flop.
Yeah, iAds didn't work.
iAds, yeah. It's interesting. The timing of releasing that ad, September 3rd, and then announcing
same day.
Oh, and by the way, we're not gonna give you that do not track option just yet. It doesn't look great.
Yeah, bad optics.
Yeah. Regardless. Okay. Apple has to pay its retail workers, people in the Apple Store, for the time they spent being searched.
Yep.
That's fair.
About time.
It's about time.
Yeah, it really is a common scam for employers that we're not going to allow you to leave until all your stuff has been searched for stolen property, but we're going to tell you have to clock out before that. And then sometimes they're having to stick around for a half hour, 45 minutes waiting for a security person to be ready for them to do the search. And this is something that it's kind of embarrassing that Apple was even caught up in this to begin with.
For 7 years, they've been fighting this since 2013.
Yeah. This is Walmart stuff. I mean, you don't expect that from the Apple Store.
Come on, guys.
Nothing with that kind of architecture should be doing this.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's not. I don't know. This isn't a Supreme Court ruling. This is just an appeals court. So I suppose Apple could appeal this all the way to the Supreme Court. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe don't.
Might be time.
Please don't.
Let it go. Yeah.
Again, this is why whenever I see propaganda about they're just hippies in a garage and they're the friendly company that cares about people and cares about the world, it's like, okay, go ahead and say that, but it really is embarrassing when we find out that you've been stealing from your employees for 7 years and you want to fight for the right to continue to steal from your employees.
Yeah. Somebody said Apple stopped doing the bag searches years ago. So are they not doing them anymore anyway? So maybe that's why it doesn't matter.
Well, they just want I think they still want the back pay.
They want the back pay, of course. Yeah. Hey, if you're having trouble getting people to sign up for Apple TV Plus, I know what you should do. Hire somebody away from Quibi. They've got it figured out. Apple has hired Tim Conley. He is an experienced Hollywood executive from Disney, Hulu, most recently from Quibi, where he was one of the senior executives running partnerships in advertising. He left before the service launched. He also helped to launch Hulu. Smart man.
Good timing. Good timing.
Yeah, I think I'll leave now if you don't mind. You guys got this.
Before my resume becomes poison, perhaps I should see if Arby's hiring.
Helped launch Hulu's live TV service, which required a lot of deal making. This guy's a deal maker. Oversaw a deal between Spotify and Hulu to bundle their services. Not known what he'll be doing, but given his history, probably be working on acquisitions, right, or deals for Apple TV's Channels feature. Tell me what the Channels feature is. That lets you watch other channels.
That lets you sign up for something like HBO or Showtime or CBS All Access through the TV app. So it's not a separate account. So if you signed up through the TV app, you'd just be able to watch all those channels through the TV app. But if you were using, I have an HBO Max subscription that I subscribe to from the website.
Right.
I can't.
It's not in your Apple TV Plus.
It's not. Yeah. I can still access the.
Yeah. I watch it on my
HBO
Apple
Max
TV.
stuff via the TV app. It just takes me to the TV or takes me to HBO Max. It doesn't open it up within it.
Right.
So this allows you to actually have the channel, let's say Showtime. It shows you an interface of all of the shows that Showtime has within this subscription. And you can click on it and watch it right inside the TV app. So they just started their TV bundle.
They did that Showtime thing, right? Showtime and CBS. For $10, you get all three. So maybe they're going to do more. You, this guy might be the guy.
I'm on board with this. If they start doing this kind of thing where you get a really good discount by getting multiple channels, I think this is a really great idea for them to make a name for themselves in TV Plus, because, we've talked a lot about how the content itself hasn't really been the thing that's going to keep people subscribing. But if you have a bundle that includes multiple channels for a really low price, that's going to start making people think, well, I already have this. I already do that. Why don't I just spend an extra $5 and I have this bundle all inside the TV app, this could potentially be a good move for them.
How do you like my suit?
Gorgeous.
Gorgeous, right?
How do you it's like a nice
Barry
suit.
Bond.
You like the flamingo shirt?
I love the flamingo shirt.
It's all from
Absolutely.
Taylor Store, our sponsor, Taylor Store.
Yeah.
And what's cool about this is a custom shirt and a custom suit, but they didn't send a tailor over to measure me. I actually used their app, their Size Me app, took a couple of pictures. And actually, what's really cool is they sent me, before they made the suit, a sizer, which made out of kind of like canvas, which I'm keeping because it's kind of fun. And then I said, well, take it in here, do this. And they sent me a second sizer. So they really care about getting it just right. And only when I said, yeah, that one fits perfectly, did they make the suit. And I'm loving it. The neat thing about Taylor Store is not only are you getting custom tailored shirts, pants, suits for men and women. Not only do you not have to go into a store or have a tailor come over, but they have so many customization options. Now, if you're pressed for time, you don't want to do the app. They have a quick size option. You enter, your height and weight, and they actually get pretty darn close. But if you want to use the app, you even get even closer to it. And then you can say, oh, I'll just take this shirt or that shirt, just like you would at any store. And I did this actually with a suit. You go through a wide variety of fabrics. You can choose the lining. I got a beautiful paisley lining. It's fully lined, which I really like. That's a good sign in any suit. Look at that lining. It's beautiful. It's just, you can't really see it on camera because it's black. I didn't want something flashy, but if I'd wanted, I could have really flashy lining. You can have the thread color, the buttons, you contrast fabrics. And here's a shirt that I just got. Look, I got my name or your initials on the cuff. My name's short, so it works instead of initials. And you choose everything to match your design. Dress shirts, chinos, beautiful suits, polo shirts, shorts, all can be purchased without any need for measurements. And man, I'm only buying my stuff from Taylor Store because it fits so perfectly. And I love the choice. Trustpilot, 4.7 out of 5 stars, thousands of customer reviews. Darnell said, quote, I am extremely picky about how my dress shirts should fit. I've always had a hard time finding shirts that actually fit my body type. Then I found Taylor Store. I had my doubts. I decided to try it out anyway. The experience was fluid and easy, and I enjoyed customizing my shirt. I have to say, I'm with you, Darnell. I like it so much. Now they have my measurements, and this suit fits perfectly. It was around $300, which is a great price for a custom tailored suit. I'm going to order more. And of course, if at any point you get something that doesn't fit quite right, you don't need to return it. Just send them an email saying it didn't fit, adjust, donate it to a charity, give it to a friend. They'll send you a new item that fits you better, fits you best. The customer service team is fantastic. These are really great people doing beautiful fabrics, beautiful stuff. The seamstresses and the tailors are fantastic, and they really love what they're doing, and they love getting it just right. So you will love this. From the comfort of your own home, design clothes that look beautiful, fit you perfectly with Taylor Store. 20% off plus free shipping with every purchase through October 31st. What? Wait a minute. I got to say that again. 20% off plus free shipping, not just for your first purchase, but everything you buy from now through Halloween. Hurry over to taylorstore.com/twit. Use the code TWIT. 20% off and free shipping. taylorstore.com/twit. Offer code TWIT. Now through October 31st. I think what you're going to want to do, this is generally how they do that. First shirt, they send you one. Then if it fits, you're going to order 100 suits. I am completely, I swear, once it got the perfect fit, it's like, it's so easy now. Experience the unrivaled fit and comfort of Taylor Store's hand-picked fabrics, all for yourself. If you're looking for your Zoom shirt, that's the place to go. Taylor Store. I haven't opened this one because I want to show you how nicely it comes, but I can't wait to get into this. taylorstore.com/twit. The offer code is TWIT. Love you, Taylor Store. Look for another suit order coming in real soon. This is an all black suit. By the way, I love the fabric. Lisa's allergic to wool, So they have, of course, a lot of wool suits, but she won't touch me if I'm wearing wool. She says it makes me itch. So I was able to get a really nice non-wool fabric that just looks good, fits good, feels great, and this will be a good travel suit. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I can't believe how old I was before I realized that clothes are supposed to fit you, and that it's like I started wearing ties like voluntarily when I realized that the reason why I feels like I'm being choked by my shirt collar is that I'm not buying the right sized shirts.
Oh.
You can actually buy a shirt with a larger collar that is actually as comfortable. So yeah, that's.
I can actually button my top button. I've never had shirts that I could button the top button and wear a tie with until Taylor Store. I really love that. Taylor Store is great. Thank you, Taylor Store, for you're my dresser, my official dresser now. And by the way, they have all kinds of crazy fabrics like this one. This flamingo. This is actually a shirt I wore on my last trip because it's such a fun shirt. So you may remember when Apple, Amazon, and Google. You may remember when hell froze over. When Apple, Amazon, and Google announced they were going to do an open source smart home standard called Project Chip, connected home over IP. I don't know. I was wrong. I thought, that'll never fly. You'll get those three in the room and they'll just tear each other's eyes out. But no, apparently it's on track for a 2021 launch. Who'd have thunk it? They just put an announcement up. This is actually, it's interesting because this is on the Zigbee Alliance page. So that just shows you it's they're even working with the Zigbee people. Here's the pyramid for, all the technologies. So this is at the highest layer. This is really an API, I think, right? Who I should really ask about this is Matthew Castanelli and Micah, because they do the Smart Tech Today show, and they're probably all over this thing. But I have to say, I love the idea that I don't have to have a different app on my phone for every device, or have different phones, or I want it to work everywhere on everything that I use.
Yeah. So will this allow us to have more integration with different virtual assistants, like the one from Google and the one from Apple? Could we have a smart speaker that it just integrates them both without all of the complicated jumping through hoops that companies have to do?
We can but hope.
It's not like the opposite, though. It's not like it was almost like assistant agnostic. Like regardless of which assistant you chose, the gear would work.
Well, that's
so you still have to choose your assistant.
Which means you could use all the assistants. So any assistant you use, you could use that one. That's what I think. That's what Lori's saying, right? You don't have to say, I have to use Amazon, because that's kind of the way it is right now. I have to use an Echo. In fact, that's why.
And they all started buying their own stuff, so it made it harder.
Yeah, even worse. Right. So now the Alliance has 145 active member companies, all the biggies. I think this is going to be the holy grail. It's the one thing that's been holding back home automation was this kind of this Tower of Babel where nothing would talk to anything else.
Yeah, I've got 2 smart home hubs in my house right now that deal with 2 different brands of products. Right. And there's more to come. There's more smart things out there that I want to add, which just means that I'm going to have to add yet another hub to my router that's already getting filled up with the hubs anyway. So if there's a standard that makes it so that I only need one hub and it works with all of the brands, that would be so much easier to do.
I don't even mind having multiple hubs. I just want to have, my routine. If I have an Apple Home routine or a Google Home routine, should be able to address everything in the house instead of having to say, good night. Good night. Okay, Amazon, good night.
Is Bixby at the window like this? Like just staring in at this point?
Nobody wants to say good night to me.
The other thing that we also will make it great is that it will not only will it make it easier to attach new things to a network, it also means that you won't have an individual company sort of holding you hostage. Like if they suddenly decide that we decided that we're going to have to charge you $5 every month, every time you want to turn a light bulb on or off. If it's basically on a standard that is not necessarily dependent on this one phone app or this one hub. It could really give people a lot more, allow them to be a lot more brave about investing in smart home technology if they feel as though if it's going to work exactly like an old-fashioned light bulb does. The fact that it's screwed into an outlet means that it's going to work no matter what terms of service that I pretend that I read before I click the accept button.
If you're going to Amsterdam or Portugal, I know you're not. If you live there now and maybe you're going to go sometime in the future, you'll be glad to know Apple Maps now has 3D images in Amsterdam and transit information in Portugal. I've been to this beautiful museum in Amsterdam. It is the most amazing Rembrandt collection I've ever seen. Now you can kind of zoom in and see it in 3D. You'll get the let's see. iCulture has the current list of known areas, which includes Amsterdam, and this is iCulture. Unfortunately, it's in Dutch.
Amsterdamese.
Which is not the easiest language for me. I can figure out that Apple Carton is Apple Maps, and 3D is still 3D. But apparently you'll get even stuff.
Google's won't translate that for you?
Probably would. I just kind of I like looking at Dutch. It looks...
Goeiemorgen, hoe gaan dit met jou?
Do you speak
Show
Dutch?
title.
No, but Afrikaans is so close. And
It is. It's Dutch,
I don't
isn't
speak
it?
Afrikaans either, but it's...
Right. So Amsterdam, Haarlem, Zandvoort, Bloemendaal, Heemstede, Hoeverdorp, Zandam, and Aalsmeer. I'm sure I'm saying those wrong. I really am. But that's cool.
You got to have a lot of chas sounds in
A
your...
lot of chas in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Portugal, what does Portugal get? Portugal gets transit information. In fact, not just Portugal, but they've expanded transit information quite a bit this year to many locations in the EU, including France, Spain, and Germany.
Muito bom, mais inteligência.
They're still playing catch up, though. You know, it's funny to read these stories and go, well, yeah, but Google Maps has that. It's had that forever. But, you know, it's good to have two.
It just goes to show you that Google Maps no longer has the stranglehold on maps that they once did. I mean, I don't know if I talked about it last week, but I was talking about how I don't have the new Microsoft Flight Simulator, but knowing that it was pulling its terrain data off of Bing Maps got me to actually go visit Bing Maps for the first time in God knows how long, and being really, really impressed with the level of 3D detail in, say, Boston. So before and Apple Maps is doing great too, but you got to wonder how hard Google is working to make sure that it keeps some sort of an edge beyond simply having been the people's default conceptual standard of maps.
If you go to store.apple.com, apparently according to 9 to 5 Mac, and you try to buy a Series 5 Apple Watch, they'll say,
But why would you, though?
Yeah, but why would you? Oh, I'm sorry, they're out of stock right now.
Just so you can be really upset that you bought it right before they announced a new one.
Yeah, don't buy it now. Wait, there might be something to say next week. Although
Sony just tweeted that they're having an event then too. Oh, it's going to be. Oh, it depends on the time zone. It's going to be right before the Apple, then evening before the Apple event.
Who? Fitbit? Who?
Busy week. Sony Alpha.
Sony. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. For their cameras?
Busy week. I guess.
Please don't, Sony.
What is left? They've announced their Cine camera. They've announced their big camera.
Please don't. I've spent way too much on your cameras. I don't want to spend any more.
I know.
Apple TV Plus trailer for a new animated film called Wolf Walkers. In fact, this is part of a whole bunch of new family stuff. Wolf Walkers. It's a adventure film about a young apprentice named Robin who travels with her father to Ireland to wipe out a pack of wolves. But it turns out she can turn into a wolf at night. Oh, no. She meets somebody who can, and then she wonders maybe we shouldn't kill these guys because maybe they're people. Coming sometime in 2020. I can't wait.
Yeah.
When is it? I have to decide. November 1st?
Just wait for the Apple events, Leo. You don't have to decide anything yet. We don't have enough information.
I got time.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly finish For All Mankind. Got to finish that. I've watched Greyhound. I'll watch it again. That was pretty good. I started watching Ted Lasso thanks to thanks to you. You're right. It's goofy, but it's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's as good as
Warms
a show.
my heart.
It's as good as a show can be based on a character developed for ESPN. But no, I like it. It's cute. Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah.
And he keeps
Do you have to
making
like
her those.
sports ball to watch it?
No, in fact,
No.
really, if you're into sports, you probably shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah. It might make you upset.
Yeah, it's not really. It's not about sports. It's about humans. It's about people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's about Hawker Sooligans. The premise is it's a third-tier American football coach brought to England to coach a Premier League team that hasn't been doing so well. And everybody's saying, "What do you? He doesn't even know the rules of soccer." In fact, the best part of it is when he's saying, "What is that? Is it a pitch? What do you? Is it a field? Is it a pitch? What do you call that?" It's like, that's the funniest part. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Boys, I'm going to introduce you to a new concept called the forward pass. I'm telling you, we'll be unstoppable once we master this.
What, you can't pick the ball up? Why not?
Where's the running back? Where's the running back?
Yeah.
What if you just use your forearms?
It
Is there a
actually
rule against
is-
using your forearms.
It's terrible if you just think about the premise. It's not good. But I think he's good. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's sweet. His assistant is
It's
sweet.
the characters.
The characters are great. Yeah.
They're so good, and there's so much just sort of positivity that's being thrown around there, even in the face of people trying to be as negative as they possibly can
It's
be.
one of those.
So,
Yeah, it's one of those where you can be meanie and it doesn't matter.
yeah.
Because he's just relentlessly upbeat.
Yeah.
Kind of guy you just want to smack in the face.
No,
Then
we
when
need
you
more of that,
do,
Leo.
he kisses you and goes,
Right.
"Have a cookie," and you feel really bad. It's that kind of show. What else is there? Is there anything else? I think I feel like I've used up all of Apple TV Plus. I don't think there's much left. I wasn't. Maybe I'll watch that Brooklyn show a little longer. But Vizio, was it Vizio or was it LG? LG said they were going to have Apple TV built in, and then they said no, we're not. Now they say they are. So, anything else to say about that? I don't think so. I think
That's
I think
going
it has
back
something to do
to
with-
older phone or older TVs too, right? Back to
Right.
the 2018 LG, right?
yeah, as
Yeah.
it should. That's great. Unfortunately
Yeah.
mine's 2016, so
Oh.
I'm not going to get any benefit. No, I don't like smart TVs, honestly. And in fact, I have to say the Apple TV Plus app on Roku is awful compared to the Apple TV Plus app on Apple. If you want Apple TV, get an Apple TV. Oh,
Yep.
I should have asked. Is there going to be an Apple TV this fall?
There is a new one. I don't know if it's this fall or not. There should be. It's good timing for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now I would buy one, even if I don't get another year of Disney or Apple TV Plus.
Well, do you have the 4K?
Yeah, I have the Ultra.
What would you need to make? Why would you buy a new one?
Oh, I know.
Is what
I
I'm
don't need
getting
it.
at.
Actually, I did buy a new one because they wear out.
Well,
They overheat.
okay, yes.
And then so I had a bad one, so I bought a replacement. But no, you're right.
And they're
I don't
just
need
not
anything.
quite powerful enough. Like they can't
for gaming.
composite over HDR cleanly.
Yeah, it's
and
gonna be
that's
gaming.
well, yeah, for games. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not a gamer, so for me, it's just like you're struggling with the HDR compositing, and I really wish you were a little bit more powerful so that could be more
A
elegant.
little more juice.
Mm-hmm.
What is in there? An A8?
An A10, isn't it an A10X?
A10X? Okay.
Latest one, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I think it's
Yeah,
going to an
this-
A12X.
Yeah.
I have run
But
out of stories, so you know what that means? Good news. Our picks of the week are next. Let's kick off picks of the week this week. I think it's your turn, Renee, to start the ball rolling.
Okay. So I did something that was hellaciously ill-advised over the weekend. I decided to react to Reddit's r/Apple sub and just go through some of their top stories and give some opinions, some thoughts on them. And the Reddit website has always been abominable, just horrible on iOS devices. And you'd think it'd be hard to mess up a website, but you would be wrong. Like previously, it wouldn't fit right. It wouldn't move right. The latest version, sometimes it doesn't even scroll. Like it'll load up the page and you can't scroll it. And you try to go to desktop view and it makes the font like 3 letters can fit on an entire iPhone screen. And it's just, I don't know what you have to do to make a mobile website this bad, or just a website in general this bad, especially if you're a monster web company. But
everybody agrees with you, by the way, Renee. I don't know anybody who uses the browser.
No, and it's a website. That's all. So I went to one of my perennial favorites, which is Apollo, which is not the official Reddit app because I was fed up enough with the official Reddit stuff. I wanted something that only an indie Apple developer could do, and that is to give a damn about the product that they were designing, developing, and shipping. And wow, is Apollo just, it is so
it's
nice.
So good.
It is
I agree 100%.
an iOS app.
Yeah.
Canadian developer, Christian, which is always one of my favorite things, but he just does such a good, caring, considerate job, and you can log in and it has all your stuff, the subreddits you go to, all the interactions that you'd expect. It does the impossible. It makes Reddit usable on mobile, and I think for that it deserves some kind of Nobel Prize.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've used a lot of them. I used Narwhal for a while, but everybody seems to agree Apollo is the only way to read Reddit. And, I like Reddit. If you choose the right subreddits like the r/r/Apple, there's a few too many pictures of my new Mac in there. But there's also a lot of useful information. I agree with you.
/iPhone is great. /Apple is super salty, but that's kind of what makes it fun.
Salty's fun. Salty's good.
Yeah.
And if you're a coder, there's a lot of good coding subreddits.
Yeah. The Shortcuts subreddit is amazing.
Shortcuts. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
that's where I get a lot of good ones. I forgot. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. So I agree with you. And I think if you're going to do it on iOS, you've got to use Apollo.
And the Sylph Road for Pokemon Leo, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but that's another really good subreddit.
Oh, the Sylph Road.
It's a bunch of math and statistic nerds and analyzing everything about the video game.
Now, Apollo is free, but they want you to pay for like Premier plan, right?
Yeah.
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 And
the free version is good. The subscription is well worth, throwing money at them.
No, in fact, I keep paying them extra.
Yeah.
Keep giving them more of my money. I think I had to pay for dark mode. That was really the reason that put me over the top. I really like that. ApolloApp.io. Thank you, Renee. Andy Yanako, your pick of the week.
My pick is not free, but more valuable than anything else you're going to be spending your money on. Just a reminder to get your flu shot this year.
Is it time?
September and October are the months that you're supposed to get your flu shot. It's when they've developed the flu shot for this year, and you're getting it early enough that it's going to be very, very useful. You can go to vaccinefinder.org, which is a site that's run by Boston Children's Hospital that will just tell you do have, the only problem is that it's not just for flu shots. You do have to choose flu shot amongst a table of like 100 different shots, but then you just tell them where you are, and it'll find any place that is actually offering them. Although here in the United States, pretty much any drugstore or any Walmart is offering flu shots. And I have to admit that I do have an appointment for next week or the week after. I've never gotten a flu shot before because my thinking had always been, well, I just never get sick. I've never gotten the flu. And
you want to get it this year?
Yes. Yeah, well, also because it's sort of heightened the thing of well, maybe you're carrying the virus and you were a little tired a couple of days and that's how much it hit you. But in the meantime, you were infecting other people. So I think it's part of our civic duty to make sure we get our annual flu shot. Once again, anytime September and October, best time to do it. It's kind of fun that just remember that every time they release a new iPhone, they also release a new seasonal flu vaccine. So you want to get in on that right away, just like you'd be camping out in front of the Apple store back in the good old days.
They don't have them yet in our. It's funny because it's safe. It's all drug stores and food stores, but a lot of them are doing that. But I don't think they've received their shots yet because they all say not currently provided. But I'm trying to decide. I'm right on the cusp. Should I get the 65 plus version or should I get the one for the Utes? I don't know.
You're going to want the one with the extra storage because when you have the ability. Oh, sorry. Talk about flu shots again.
I think that's the right answer, though.
So you're going to save up and get the flu shot plus.
Vaccinefinder.org. Yeah, I want the flu shot plus, the max. Yeah. Renee, I'm sorry, Lori, your turn.
Okay, so my pick this week comes from Allison Sheridan.
Oh, yes.
Whom I know from Chit Chat Across the Pond, but she also does a bunch of other podcasts. She has a podcast with Bart Busschots, which I apologize if I've butchered your last name. The podcast is called Taming the Terminal.
Oh.
But what's very exciting about this is that Allison and a friend of hers actually turned. So what happens was that they would do the podcast Taming the Terminal, and Bart would actually have his notes on how to actually do these things. So Allison and Dr. Helma van der Linden turned that into an actual PDF book, or there's actually a bunch of different versions that you can download and listen to. And if you go to, let me make sure that I've got podfeet.com.
That's right.
Download TTT book. This is where you can find it in Apple Books. You can get an EPUB that includes audio. You can get the PDF form. You can get it as a Kindle book. So they've developed like multiple formats so that you can actually read it in any format that you want, and it's totally free, and it's like a learning tool for you to learn about using Terminal, which Allison actually said she thought you'd really appreciate that, Leo.
I do, because she knows I'm all about the Terminal. We've done a little bit of that in our Hands on Mac, but I was reluctant to spend too much time in the Terminal. I didn't want to leave people who weren't interested out. But boy, this looks like it goes really deep into really powerful stuff, so it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Taming the Terminal, and it's free.
Yes.
Thank you, Allison.
Yes, thank you, Allison, for
really
introducing us to this.
Actually, I have a terminal command for you. How about that? This comes from a listener. As you know, I've been doing Hands-on Macintosh for a while, and I've shown how to use Brew, which is my favorite for installing terminal applications and so forth. There's a number of package managers, but Brew is the most common one. And I mentioned when I was showing that how Brew File would let you save all your installed apps and make it easy to quickly reinstall everything with a new Mac. But then one of our community members at the Twit community, Saguaro, said, well, you said something about saving your preferences from your applications. And I said, well, whoa, hold on. Now, wait a minute. That's going too far. I don't know anything about that. I could tell you how to save preferences from command lines, your dot files. Well, he's come up with something, and actually this is a really cool program called MacUp, as in backup. In fact, once you install MacUp, you do it with Brew, and it's available also on Linux, I should say. And then you type the word MacUp backup. It does something kind of clever. It's a simple Python script, but what it does is it copies a lot of the plists and configuration information from a big number of applications. It actually copies them to your Dropbox or your Google Drive or iCloud. Look at all the applications it supports. And then makes a link back to their normal location. So as you change or update settings for a huge variety of Apple apps.
There's a lot.
GUIs as well as command line, you're actually just changing the Dropbox file. And so it's automatically backed up for you. You don't even have to run the program more than once just to set this. It's basically a script that just sets this up, and now you're automatically getting everything backed up, which means it's very quick to restore it using, well, you did MacUp backup, MacUp restore, to then restore all of your files from Dropbox. It supports a variety of locations. It's a little complicated. If you want to have it be anything but Dropbox, you have to modify a config file that doesn't exist, but it is actually pretty powerful. It's really cool. The one thing I would bring up is it doesn't encrypt those files. So if you're putting things like PGP keys or SSH keys into your backups, you should make sure you back them up somewhere fairly safe. So we're going to address this probably on a Hands-on Mac episode coming up in the near future, but I thought I'd mention this today because it's free. It's on GitHub, github.com/LRA/Macup, MACKUP. It's from Laurent Rofaste. Good job, LRA. He's a cloud plumber. That's his title. He gives himself from New York City. Thank you,
I
Laurent,
like that.
and thank you, Saguaro, in our Twit community for telling me about it. I'd never heard of it. Now I've told you about it. Mackup. Keep your application settings in sync. Thank you, everybody. We've come to the conclusion of this fabulous episode. Next week, we're going to have a ton to talk about because we're going to be right after the Apple announcement. So all of those speculations you heard in the past hour and a half, forget it.
We're prepared to deny everything.
We didn't know what we were talking about. Who knew that Apple was going to announce its car next week? We didn't know that. No, we will cover the Apple event. It starts 10 a.m. Pacific. That is 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 1700 UTC, Tuesday, September 15th. And this panel will be here immediately afterward to talk about it. That's Andy Ihnatko from WGBH Boston Public Radio. When are you on GBH? Do you have a schedule?
Back to the usual-ish time, 1 p.m. on Friday. Go to WGBHnews.org to stream it live or later if you're still using terrestrial radio, 89.7 on your Boston area FM dial.
On your FM dial. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you to Lori Gill. She is managing editor, at imore.com. Thank you, Lori. Great to see
Thank you.
And Renee Ritchie from youtube.com/Renee Ritchie. Glad to have you on.
Oh, thank you so much. So boring, but so consistent.
So boring, but so consistent. Well, thank you very much for that. We do this show every Tuesday. We were a little late today because we had technical issues, but normally we try to do it around 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1800 UTC. You can watch the live stream. Whatever we're doing, it'll be there at twit.tv/live, audio or video. If you're doing that, chat with the chat room, irc.twit.tv. You can get on-demand versions of this show, all the shows we do on the website, twit.tv/mbw. In this case, you can also see it on YouTube. There's a YouTube channel for it. In fact, all of our shows have their own YouTube channel. If you go to the master channel, youtube.com/twit, you could see what all those channels are, as well as little twit bits and stuff at the Twit channel. And let's see what else. Oh, if you've got a podcast application, by all means, subscribe, because, you want to get the show the minute it's available. You want to have the complete set. Collect all, 730. I was listening to old MacBreak weeklies earlier today because we were filling time, and I had some clips, Andy, and it's amazing. First of all, you're on them, of course. Renee and Lori came a little bit later, but you're on the first 100 episodes. It's amazing how far we've come in terms of audio quality.
Oh yeah,
I thought at the time we were really good.
No, again, I've long since gotten used to how goofy I look, so there's no point in saying, oh, look at my hair, look at my whatever. But it's always like, oh my God, look at the gating that I'm having. I must have forgotten to reset my router and prioritize. It's like, no, yeah, exactly. It was a simpler time. Although for the record, I'm still upset that there's no floppy drive in the first iMac. I still think that was a mistake.
Yes, we fought hard about that, but just couldn't come to agreement. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You see, we will do this, and we will keep doing this, and ride it all the way down to the bitter end. Thanks for joining us. Get back to work, though, because break time is over. Take care.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, host at Twit TV. Got a question for you. Have you gotten tired of how bad your photos are looking every time you post them to Instagram? Better yet, have you gotten yourself a new camera and you can't quite figure out why the images just don't look that good? Well, I have a solution for you. It's my show, Hands On Photography. Each and every Thursday, I sit down and share different tips and tricks that are going to help make you a better photographer and a better post processor. So subscribe today at twit.tv/hop to learn more.